In the heart of Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, lived Nguyen Thanh Long, a self-made billionaire known for his luxury real estate empire. From a poor fisherman's son to one of Vietnam's richest men, Long's rise had been nothing short of miraculous. But despite his success, his greatest pride was not his business, it was his wife, My Linh. My Linh was everything Long had ever dreamed of, graceful, kind, and loyal. They had met years ago when Long was still struggling to build his first apartment project. She stood by him through every storm, never once asking for anything in return. Together, they seemed unstoppable, but happiness, as people say, can be fragile. After 5 years of marriage, Linh became pregnant, a moment that should have been the happiest of their lives. Yet something inside Long changed. Rumors began to spread among his business rivals that the child wasn't his. Someone claimed they had seen Linh meeting another man at a cafe. Others whispered that the baby's timing didn't match Long's frequent business trips. At first, Long laughed it off. But as months passed, jealousy began to eat away at him. Every time Linh smiled at her phone, every time she received a message, he wondered who it was. One night, unable to control his suspicion, Long secretly checked her phone. What he found froze his blood, messages with a man's name he didn't recognize. The texts seemed innocent, but his mind twisted them into something darker. Who is he? He demanded the next morning. Linh's eyes filled with tears. He's my cousin, Long. He's helping me plan the baby shower. Why are you acting like this? But Long's trust was already shattered. As the baby's due date approached, Long grew colder, sleeping in another room and barely speaking to Linh. When their son was finally born, a beautiful boy with bright eyes, Long refused to even hold him. He demanded a DNA test. Linh, heartbroken and humiliated, agreed. She loved her husband too much to fight back. She just wanted him to believe in her again. As they waited for the results, silence filled their mansion, thick, heavy, and unbearable. Neither of them knew that the truth would not only shock Long, but also change their lives forever. The mansion felt colder than ever in the days that followed. Every sound, the ticking clock, the baby's soft cry, even the wind brushing against the curtains, seemed to echo with tension. My Linh spent her nights awake, feeding their newborn son, Minh, alone. Her heart ached every time she glanced at the empty side of the bed where Long used to sleep. She still couldn't believe that the man who once swore to protect her no matter what now looked at her as if she were a stranger. Meanwhile, Long buried himself in work. He didn't visit Linh in the hospital. He didn't ask about the baby. His pride and pain built a wall so high that even he couldn't see over it. 3 days later, the phone call came. The DNA results are ready, Mr. Nguyen, the clinic receptionist said. Long felt his hands tremble for the first time in years. He had faced ruthless business competitors, lost millions in a single day, but nothing terrified him like this moment. He told his driver to take him to the clinic immediately. When the doctor handed him the sealed envelope, Long hesitated. It was just a few sheets of paper, but they held the power to destroy or save his family. He took a deep breath and opened it. His eyes scanned the words once, twice, and then froze. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. Mr. Nguyen Thanh Long is the biological father of the child. The world seemed to stop. His throat tightened, and guilt crashed over him like a wave. All the nights of suspicion. All the cold words. All the times he turned his back on Linh when she needed him most, and for what? Lies whispered by envious people. Long clutched the report in shaking hands, whispering to himself, "My son, he's my son." He rushed back home. Linh was sitting on the balcony, rocking Minh gently in her arms. Her face looked pale, tired, but still full of love. Long fell to his knees beside her, tears spilling freely. "Lin, I was wrong," he choked out. "He's mine. I should have trusted you. Please forgive me." For a long moment, Lin said nothing. Her eyes glistened, and she looked down at her husband, the man who had shattered her heart. Finally, in a trembling voice, she whispered, "You didn't just doubt me, Long, you doubted our love." The baby cooed softly between them, as if sensing the storm that had passed, but what Lin didn't know was that Long's guilt was only the beginning, because the truth behind those rumors was far more complicated than either of them realized. For the first time in weeks, Long sat beside his wife and son in silence. The guilt still weighed heavily on his heart, but he couldn't let it end there. Someone had tried to destroy his marriage, and nearly succeeded. As Lin slept, exhausted from caring for baby Min, Long stood by the window, staring out at the city lights of Ho Chi Minh City. He was a man who built an empire from nothing, a man who trusted numbers and contracts, not lies. Now, he was determined to find out who had planted those poisonous rumors. The next morning, he called in his private investigator, Vu Tran, a loyal man who had worked for him for years. "Vu, I want to know who started those rumors about my wife," Long said coldly. "I don't care how long it takes. Find them." Vu nodded. "Understood, sir. I already have some leads." 2 days later, Vu returned with a thick folder. Inside were photos, call logs, and reports. When Long opened it, his jaw tightened. The man in the photos was Duking Nguyen, Long's own business partner and childhood friend. Vu explained, he paid 2 gossip bloggers to spread false stories about Mrs. Lin's affair. He even planted witnesses to claim they saw her with another man. Long's blood boiled. Why would he do this? Vu sighed. Because of your latest project, the Saigon Pearl Towers. He wanted full control. He knew that if you were emotionally distracted, you might delay signing the land contract, and he could steal the deal. Long slammed his fist on the table. That snake. Memories flooded back. Duke always around, pretending to care, pretending to be a friend. The man who attended his wedding, toasted to his success, and even called Lin sister. Now, Long saw it clearly. Duke had attacked not only his business but the one thing Long valued more than money, his family. That evening, Long returned home early. Lin was feeding Min, her eyes still sad but softening toward him. "Lin," he said quietly, "I found out who did this to us." She looked up, her hands trembling. "Who?" "Duke. The man I called my brother." Her face went pale. "But, he's always been kind to us." "That's what he wanted us to believe," Long said bitterly. "He used our trust as his weapon." Lin's eyes filled with tears. "Long, please don't do anything foolish. Revenge won't heal us." But Long's heart was already burning with fury. "He destroyed my peace, Lin. He made me doubt the woman I love. I won't let that go." As Lin hugged their baby close, a terrible sense of dread filled her chest. She knew her husband. When Nguyen Tan Long decided to fight back, no one was safe, and soon, Duking Nguyen would learn that lesson in the hardest way possible. The next morning, the sky over Ho Chi Minh City was heavy and gray, as if it, too, sensed the storm that was about to come. Nguyen Tan Long dressed in silence. His face was calm, but his eyes carried the cold fury of a man who had been pushed too far. He wasn't going to send lawyers or investigators this time. He wanted to look Duking Nguyen in the eye, the man who had tried to destroy everything he loved. At exactly 10 a.m., Long's black Mercedes stopped in front of Duke's office building. The guards recognized him instantly and let him in without question. He walked straight to Duke's private suite, every step echoing on the marble floor. When Long entered, Duke was sitting behind his desk, smiling confidently. "Long, my brother." What a surprise! Long threw the DNA test report across the desk. It landed with a sharp slap. "You should have stayed out of my family, Duke." Duke's smile faltered. He picked up the paper, pretending to be confused. "What is this supposed to mean?" "It means your plan failed," Long said, his voice low and dangerous. "My son is mine. And I know you paid bloggers to spread lies about Lin." For a long moment, Duke said nothing. Then, slowly, he leaned back and laughed, a cold, bitter sound that sent chills down Long's spine. "You finally found out," Duke said. "But tell me, Long, did it really matter who told you? You already believed the rumors, didn't you? You doubted your own wife. I just gave you a little push." Long's fists clenched. "Why? We built everything together. I treated you like family." Duke's smile twisted. "Family? You took everything from me. When we started this company, I had the same dreams as you. But everyone praised you, Nguyen Thanh Long, the genius, the golden boy of Saigon. Do you know how that felt? To watch the man I helped become a king while I stood in his shadow? You betrayed me out of jealousy." Long hissed. "Jealousy?" Duke said, standing up. "No. It's balance. I just took what I deserved. And guess what? The Saigon Pearl contract, it's already signed. You were too busy fighting your wife to notice." Long froze. The contract. His biggest project, the crown jewel of his empire, gone. Duke leaned forward. "So yes, I made you doubt her. Because I knew your pride would destroy you faster than any bullet could." For a moment, the only sound in the room was the rain beginning to fall outside. Long took a step closer, his voice shaking with restrained rage. "You may have won this deal, Duke, but you lost your soul. And I swear, I'll make sure the whole world sees what kind of man you really are." Duke chuckled. "We'll see about that." Long turned and walked out, his heart burning, not with revenge anymore, but with resolve. He realized something painful that day. His greatest enemy wasn't Duke. It was his own lack of faith. Now, he had to rebuild not just his company, but the trust of the woman he had almost destroyed, and for that, he would need to face his past, his guilt, and his pride, one by one. After the confrontation with Duke, Long returned home, exhausted but determined. The city lights glimmered outside the mansion, but inside, the air felt heavy with silence. Lin sat on the sofa, cradling baby Min. Her eyes met his, and in that gaze, Long saw both the pain he had caused and the unwavering love that had never left her. He took a deep breath and approached her slowly. "Min, I know I can never undo the hurt I caused you. But I want to try. I want to be the husband and father you deserve." Lin's eyes filled with tears. "Long, you hurt me so deeply. I don't know if I can forget the nights you doubted me, but," she paused, looking down at Min. "For him, I want us to try. For our son." Long knelt beside them, taking both their hands. "I promise, no more doubts, no more cold walls between us. I'll spend the rest of my life earning your trust back." Over the next few weeks, Long threw himself into rebuilding his family. He helped Lin with every small task, stayed awake with her during the nights when Min cried, and spent hours just talking to her, not about business, not about money, but about them. Slowly, the warmth returned to their home, filling the empty spaces that suspicion had once taken. Yet, in the shadows, Long's mind was never far from Duke. That man had not only tried to ruin his marriage but had also manipulated business deals to steal the Saigon Pearl Towers project. Long knew he couldn't simply forgive and forget. Duke had to pay for the betrayal, legally, publicly, and morally. He began gathering evidence: bank transfers, secret emails, contracts showing Duke's manipulations. Every night, after Min had fallen asleep and Lin was resting, Long pored over documents with Vu Tran, his investigator. "Long, this is solid," Vu said one evening, pointing at the files. "We have everything, proof he bribed bloggers, falsified reports, and even tried to manipulate your board members. If we go public with this, Duke won't survive this scandal." Long's jaw tightened. "Good. I want him to see that while he tried to destroy us, we've only become stronger." Meanwhile, Lin noticed the change in Long. He was still the powerful businessman she loved, but now his heart seemed softer, more aware of the fragility of happiness. She began to let her guard down, letting him back into her life fully. Every shared smile, every gentle touch, and every late-night conversation brought them closer together, healing the wounds that suspicion had torn open. But the story was far from over. Duke believed he had outsmarted Long. He had no idea that Long wasn't just rebuilding his marriage, he was also meticulously preparing a plan that would expose Duke for the fraud and betrayal he had tried to hide for so long. And when that day came, Duke would realize that some lessons are learned too late. Weeks passed, and Long's careful planning had come to fruition. Every piece of evidence against Duke was gathered and verified: emails, payment records, insider testimonies, even video footage of Duke meeting with the bloggers he had paid to spread lies about Lin. Long decided it was time. Not just for revenge, but to protect his family and reputation. Duke had underestimated him, believing that Long's heartache would distract him. Instead, it had sharpened Long's mind. In a high-profile board meeting of their company, Long called an emergency session. Duke, unaware of the storm about to hit, sat smugly in the front row, confident that his manipulation had gone unnoticed. "Ladies and gentlemen," Long began, his voice calm but commanding, "we have discovered a series of unethical actions taken by one of our partners, which have directly harmed both the company and my family." He projected evidence on the screen: emails, bank transfers, videos, all meticulously organized. Gasps filled the room as the board members realized the extent of Duke's betrayal. Duke's face paled. "Long, this isn't true." "It's all true," Long interrupted, stepping closer. "You attempted to manipulate the company's projects, paid bloggers to slander my wife, and tried to steal the Saigon Pearl Towers contract from me. Your actions are not just unethical, they are illegal." By the end of the meeting, Duke had been removed from the company, and legal proceedings were initiated. Board members who had once been loyal to him switched sides, realizing where their loyalties truly belonged. Outside the boardroom, Long took a deep breath. The storm he had feared was finally over. Duke's empire within the company had crumbled, and Long's name was cleared. That evening, Long returned home to Lin and Min. Holding his son in his arms, he whispered, "Nothing will ever come between us again. Not lies, not envy, not betrayal." Lin smiled softly, tears of relief streaming down her face. "Long, we've survived the worst, and now we can finally be happy." For the first time in months, their mansion was filled with genuine laughter, warm and unshakable. Long had reclaimed not just his empire, but his family, and in doing so, he had rediscovered the true value of trust and love. But even in victory, Long knew one thing: life could test him again. And next time, he would face it with the lessons he had learned. Never doubt the ones who love you, and never underestimate the power of patience and strategy. After Duke's betrayal was exposed, life for Long and Lin began to slowly return to normal. The mansion, once filled with tension and cold silence, now echoed with laughter, baby cries, and the small joys of family life. Long made a promise to himself: nothing, not business, not envy, not lies, would ever come between him and his family again. That he devoted himself to being a present father. Nights were spent feeding Min, reading bedtime stories, and holding him close while Lin rested. Long discovered a side of himself he had never fully experienced, the patient, gentle, and deeply loving side. Each smile from his son, each soft coo, reinforced the understanding that family was worth more than any fortune. Yet, even in this newfound peace, shadows lingered. Duke's fall had caused ripples in the business world. A few of his allies, angry and humiliated, whispered threats, hinting that Duke's revenge might extend beyond the company. Long knew he had to remain vigilant. He consulted with Vu Tran, his loyal investigator, and together they mapped out every potential threat. Security measures were tightened, both digitally and physically. But Long also realized that some battles didn't require force, some required wisdom. Long, Vu said one evening, Duke's allies are angry, but they're scared too. You've proven you're not easily shaken. The key now is to stay calm and protect your family, not to chase revenge. Long nodded, holding Min close. I want to rebuild, not destroy. Duke's gone from my life. I won't let anyone else take what I almost lost. Meanwhile, Lin noticed the change in Long not just as a father, but as a husband. He listened, he communicated, he shared his fears and dreams openly. Slowly, the trust that had been broken was mended. Their bond grew stronger, anchored in honesty and shared love for their son. One afternoon, while playing with Min in the garden, Lin looked at Long and whispered, "Do you realize how close we came to losing everything?" Long smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Yes, but we didn't lose each other. And that's what matters most." As the sun set over Ho Chi Minh City, the family sat together, holding hands and watching their son take his first unsteady steps. It was a moment of pure joy, a symbol of resilience and new beginnings, yet Long knew that life was unpredictable. He had defeated Duke, but the lessons of betrayal, doubt, and trust would stay with him forever. And with that wisdom, he was ready to face whatever the future held, with Lin and Min by his side, always. Months had passed since Duke's betrayal had been exposed, and life in the Nguyen household had settled into a rhythm of peace and happiness. The mansion, once heavy with suspicion and tension, now overflowed with warmth, laughter, and the innocent energy of baby Min. Nguyen Thanh Long had changed. The billionaire who once measured life in deals, profits, and influence had learned that the greatest wealth was not in his empire, it was in his family. He spent every possible moment with Lin and Min, cherishing every smile, every coup, every small milestone. Lin, too, had found healing. The nights of fear and doubt had passed, replaced by quiet confidence in the man she loved and in the bond they shared. She had seen Long's humility, his remorse, and his dedication, and her heart had opened fully again. Together, they were rebuilding not just their family, but their dreams. One sunny afternoon, the family sat in the garden. Min, now taking his first confident steps, wobbled toward Long with outstretched arms. Long caught him, lifting him high into the air, laughter echoing through the yard. Lin watched them, tears of joy brimming in her eyes. "Long," she said softly, "we survived the lies, the betrayal, the doubts, and we're stronger for it. I can't imagine my life without you or Min. Long held her hand tightly, his eyes never leaving their son. We've learned the hardest lessons, Lin. But the most important one is this: trust, love, and family are worth protecting above everything else. Money, power, revenge, none of it matters without you and Min. In that moment, the past seemed distant, the rumors, the threats, the pain. What remained was their love, unwavering and unshakable. Outside, the city of Ho Chi Minh City moved on as always, bustling and alive, but inside the Nguyen mansion, a different story played out, one of forgiveness, loyalty, and the unbreakable bond of family. Nguyen Tan Long looked at his wife and son, his heart full. He had faced jealousy, betrayal, and doubt, and he had survived stronger, wiser, and more in love than ever. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light across the garden, Long whispered to Lin, "No matter what life throws at us, we'll face it together, as a family." And for the first time in a long while, the billionaire truly felt rich, not in money, but in love, trust, and the family he had fought so hard to protect.